Hey everyone, it's Anna with Passions of Paper. On my last tutorial, I got several requests on making a tutorial on how I make my soft covers. So I'm going to show you guys how to make this specific soft cover. Basically, it's the same template that I use to make all my covers, give or take a few ingredients here or there. But once I explain this process to you, you should be able to run with it and make your own beautiful soft journal covers. So this is my fairy journal that I just finished making, and I've got a couple of custom orders to make more of these. So I'm going to be making another one of these covers as a tutorial with you guys. Making these covers is a very big process, very big ordeal. It takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, and it's kind of complicated. So in order to shorten the video, not have it be so ridiculously long, I'm prepped most of the stuff. I don't have video editing, and I don't have a lot of time for crafting, so I don't really like to waste what time I do have on editing videos. I just wanted to be able to show you guys how to make the general soft cover. I do use a sewing machine, so if you're going to be attempting this, hopefully you've got that. I don't really know how you would make a fabric cover without a sewing machine, because glue shows through. Slow stitching or hand stitching or whatever you want to call it would take forever. So what I do is I make a cover out of 4 layers. I do 2 inner layers to give it some stability, and I like to what's the word? Just I do this. I pull the pieces out and give this some, I don't know, you guys know what I'm talking about though, but I do that because that's going to stick out from my top fabric, and just like that. So like we'll see all that, and that adds to my covers. I like the fringe, and I've got, so these are all my layers. I've already cut everything, and I've already frayed the materials. I have this here. I've also got, this is my tie closure that I did on my fairy journal, and this was just this is just muslin that I stamped on both sides. I just really liked the way that looked for my fairy journal, so I stamped that. And I've got this vine ribbon here. It's going to go here. So this is going to make up the base of my journal cover. And then on top of that, I've got the front. And I've already put this together because this takes a lot of time. So I'm just going to walk you through what I did for this. This is just an image that I printed on really thick paper, the thickest printer paper I have. And then I took 2 types of eyelash yarns, and I sewed them, or I glued them to the edge of this paper. Well, I guess before I even did that, I tore the paper out, I inked the edges, and then I sewed with some crazy stitching with my sewing machine. And I've got this, I had all the way loose threads over here to kind of make a tassel. And then I glued all the eyelash yarns on because I like the way that looks sticking out. It adds to the forest feel. And I've got, I did a leaf here and some ribbon. I did this little flower button here with some threads hanging out of that, some fur yarns. And that is sewed on and glued on to make sure it'll stay on. And then we've got the word enchanted here. I glued some leaves down here. You'll see in the cover that I also have leaves in the top, but for this one I do these leaves behind this muslin here because I like to see the fraying of that come through. So I'll be gluing these leaves down like right around this area here. And then I'll be sewing all these layers, and then this will be the final layer going on, and I just try to line that up. And I'll just do another sewing around where I've got all the sewing that's already on there to sew that on. Well, I'll glue it first, the whole thing. Glue it on real good, and then I'll sew that on. Once that's all done, then I will sew on the inside of the cover. Now the inside is a separate thing. I do that last because this is going to be getting sewn throughout the middle and stuff, and you don't want that to show up on the inside of your cover. So this is the pieces for the inside of my cover. I'm going to sew a U around the pocket here. I don't sew in the middle because when I sew the signatures in this area, that will all hold the middle, and that creates the front pocket and the back pocket. So after I've done all that, I'll sew this and make it a U, and then I'll go through and sew this on to the inside of all this. So I'm going to be pausing the camera when I do my sewing. You guys don't need to sit around for that, and I don't really have a way to put my camera over there. So I just do the I don't know what the stitch names are, but I do the straight stitch, I guess is what it's called, and then the other stitch that I'll use is the one that zigzags. And I usually use the straight stitch. Actually, there is one extra stitch that I used. It's kind of like a zigzag, kind of like a heartbeat monitor type of thing. It does little zigzags and then big zigzag. So I liked that one for right here, but I did straight stitching here. And then usually for the outside final part, I do the zigzag stitch just because it really holds everything together. But I usually mix it up between the straight stitch and the zigzag stitch. So the first thing that I'm going to do, basically I work my way backwards. So I've got all of this. Actually, usually I stitch this on, but on my fairy journal I glued that ribbon on, just going down the vine of it, and that's holding it really well. So I think I'm going to do that again because since I stamped this fabric, it's already kind of busy, so I don't really want sewing in the middle of it. But I work my way backwards. I take everything back off and I start at the base. So this is my base, these 3 layers, the 2 middles and the top layer. I'm going to put like a little dab of glue here or there, very, very tiny, because you don't want it to bleed through, just to help hold things in place. I suppose you could use those needles or pins or whatever they're called, but I'm not a professional sewer or anything like that. I literally just got a sewing machine just to sew on my journal pages, and then I took it another step and now I sew fabric. But I'm self-taught. I've never learned, so I just do what I do, and I will just put a little glue here or there to hold the pieces together to make sure they don't get crooked. And I'll be back once this is sewn. Okay, I just got that sewn. So you can see here what I did. I just chose to do the zigzag stitch all the way around. And that sewed all 3 pieces. Now I can't remember if I told you guys what I used for the insides. This is the canvas drop cloth. I bought this on Amazon. It's a nice thick material. And then this next one is the muslin, which is a much softer material but gives a nice fray. And I like the combination of the different frayed materials all together. Oh, sorry, I'm not even in camera. So you can see all those together, because I like my journal covers to be grungy, so I like the frayed materials. Alright, so we've got that all sewn on. Now the next step, now remember, I'm not doing the inside. This is just the middle pieces, so all the sewing that I'm going to do next, it doesn't matter. You're going to see it through here, and it doesn't matter. Because once I sew on the inside piece of fabric, it's going to hide everything that I'm doing now. So basically, I want this to go here. And then this is pretty close to the same size. So I think I'm going to sew this on together. I think that's what I did on this one. Yeah. So I only sewed once through here. So this right here is not attached at this point. So, if there's no chance of it falling off or anything, so it doesn't matter that it's not attached right there. Kind of just adds some nice freeform to it. Like, sometimes things look good when they're not fully attached, like, to every single edge. And it adds some playability to it and allows things to sometimes look a little grungier. So, I will basically use a tiny bit of glue to get these held in place where I want them. I've already frayed these as well. Also, I should mention, this is 16 inches long by about 9.5 or 10 inches tall, because that's the length I like, the height I like my journals to be. This is going to allow for a 3.5 to a 4-inch spine at 16 inches. What I do basically, I make the front and the back about 6 inches. So when you're building your cover, make sure you keep that in mind. You're going to want about 6 inches, not including the frayed parts, just from the start of the real material. You're going to want about 6 inches in for the front and about 6 inches in from the back for the back. And then the rest of it's going to be your spine. So I will go ahead and attach this and I'll be right back. Alright, so I have sewn that on. You can see the sewing lines on that side there, because it's kind of hard to see the purple thread on the purple burlap. Alright, next step is this. I've got this blue silky ribbon here. And then we've got this, this is just a strip of muslin that I'm using for my closure. And I stamped it with my script stamp on both sides, except for the part that's going to go over right here, because that doesn't matter. Now I need to make sure that's about in the middle. I do this about 13 inches extra on each end, on these ends, for the closure size. That gives me enough length for a decent sized bow tie for my thick journals. Now the way I did this one is I glued the vine here, not the leaves. The leaves are free floating. I just glued the vine here with my art glitter glue. It's like the strongest glue ever, so it holds when you use it. So I glued that all the way down, and then I sewed onto here And so I sewed over the edges of this because that's the part where it's going to get the most wear and tear. This part should not have any problems. Also, it's kind of being held in by my signatures. And then I did the fancy stitching all around here. This stitching here was from the end when I sewed in the inside of the cover. So don't worry about that. So all I'm doing here is just sewing like this all the way around the whole thing. So this here, again, is loose. And, yeah, that works. I've learned, I used to sew like every piece individually, and it just seemed like it was overkill. It was bulking up the journal in awkward spots. And I've learned that it really doesn't need to be every single piece. As long as you can get things straight enough, and you can manage the multiple layers all at once, which, like I said, I used just a little bit of glue. I lightly, very, very lightly, just kind of put some on, and that holds this in place. So as long as you can make things stay in place and you can manage the layers, you can sew multiple layers at once. So I'm going to go ahead and put all this on, and I'll be right back. Alright, so that is sewed in. I did that same heartbeat stitch, except that I did it a little bit closer on this one. I think I'm not sure which way I like more. I think I like both ways actually, but just trying something different. So that is all the layers. So now the back is pretty much done, this part here. Now we've got the front, and for that, the first step I'm going to do is tuck these leaves into here, and they're going to get glued down. I just want to see how they look real quick. Make sure that this is lining up with the picture. So if you'll remember, I had glued these leaves on here, and I want them to be symmetrical up here with that. So this will go right about here. So we've got this leaf sticking out a little bit more. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And then the next step is to glue this down on top. And then we'll be pretty much done with the front. The only thing that I'm not doing is just gluing this butterfly on, just because I want to wait until... So I'm going to glue the leaves, and then I'm going to glue this on, and then I'm going to sew it on all the way around, right where I've got these sewing lines. It's a little bit tricky because of the button, but I was able to do it on my other cover, so I'm going to try to do that again. Once that's sewed on, then I'll glue this butterfly on, because I don't want to accidentally sew the threads in there. I want to make sure those are left loose. So this is going to get glued on at the very end. Well, not the very end, but after this next step. So I figured I would just go ahead and show you guys. I didn't touch the leaves. I left them where you already saw me put them. So I'm going to very gingerly lift them up and put a bunch of glue under there. The leaves, these are nice quality leaves. They don't really show glue through them. I've got these in the wrong order. I like the two outsides to be on the bottom, and then I do the middle on the top layer like that. So yeah, these ones don't show glue through them. I do have some fake leaves that absolutely show the glue through them, and those I would have to sew on. I could do maybe a few drops of glue just to help hold them in place, but they have to be sewed on. This glue will hold these leaves here. Just want to make sure I don't have to get the edges. I could leave them free, but some things I do like to be held down, just so that the journal's not feeling like it's gonna fall apart on you if you use it a lot. I like things to feel secure, but also look grungy. So those are, well, one more spot. There we go. So those are glued down now. Now I'm going to glue down my main piece. I'm going to try to keep this eyelash part out because that will add to the looks and not be wasted. But this stuff's finicky. It's really hard to work with. I'm going to try to train it a little bit before I cover this thing in glue and it all gets stuck on there. So basically I'm following the cardboard here. Since these leaves are attached to the cardboard already, I don't really need to attach them to the cover. I might, actually they're going to get sewn over, so that won't even matter. So I do a lot of glue on here. There's no way you're going to see it. And I want to make sure this is 100% absolutely attached. Yeah, I'm losing all of it, darn it. I need to measure my 6 inches so I can make sure this is centered in those 6 inches. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, and now I'm going to sew around just this paper part, and then we'll work on the inside of the cover next. Alright, so I sewed that on, as you can see here. And that just adds even more to this tassel here. So the glue is still wet. This is a little bit flimsy at the moment. It'll dry. I wanted to mention that I remember to take this out of the way so that when I was sewing around here, I did not sew that down. So now I'm able to add this butterfly, but I think I'm going to wait till the very, very end, because when I sew the inside on, sometimes I sew it on this way, and so I might not see where those threads are, and I might sew over them. So I'm just going to wait. Alright, so this is the inside of the cover now. And that's where we're going to be sewing this. But first, I have to sew the pocket on. I always do that just on this piece of fabric by itself. And then I can sew the whole finished inside cover to the whole cover, and then it's done. So we are almost done. Alright, I have sewed the pocket on to the inside of the cover. Now I just need to sew this piece onto this piece. And then we will have a completed journal cover. So I'm just going to line it up, and then I'll do my little dots of glue. Then I'll do the zigzag stitch all the way around. I always try to be careful about things like this. I want these to be hanging out and not getting sewed into the cover. And then, yeah, so like when you're doing this, just make sure you're careful about the things that you don't want to get sewed on, or things that you want hanging out. Like I got to be careful once again with this. I'm just going to stick the button tassel part up there. So yeah, just gotta be careful with those. I gotta be careful not to sew these to the cover anywhere. I've done that so many times. Couldn't even tell you how many times I've had to fix that. And that's gonna be what I'm doing next. Alright, so now we've got the inside of the cover sewn on. I managed to not sew things down that I didn't want sewn down. And that's a completed cover, other than the butterfly. So the butterfly, basically, I like the way that she was like looking down. And so I made this butterfly to kind of go on her hand here to make it look like she is looking at this butterfly, not just at the ground. It's a little more interesting. And it fits because I feel like butterflies and fairies go hand in hand. So there we go. That is a completed journal cover. I hope this helped you guys. I am so sorry that I'm just not good at doing tutorials. I'm all over the place. Making a cover is a very, very complex process. There's like a bajillion steps, and there's like a bajillion ways that you can do those steps. And sometimes I don't always do things the same way. So sometimes I just do it the way I feel like doing it in the moment with whatever pieces I've got. And so it's not like I've got this process 100% nailed down, but people were wanting to know how I made my soft cover journals, and that's how I did it. They're very, very secure, nice and floppy, but still kind of stiff enough to, once you got those signatures sewn in, it stands up very, very well all on its own, as you can see here. And then I'm going to put a link in the description box below. That is another tutorial video I did where I sewed in the signatures to a soft fabric cover journal, because it's a little bit different than doing it to a hardcover. And in that tutorial, I had a different way of doing the middle signature so that I could add a tassel to the top using that same thread. I changed it up a little bit. I now sew this just like any other signature gets sewn in, but then let me open it up and I'll show you guys. After I've tied it off, I gotta find the middle. So after I've tied it off in the middle here, let me get you guys a little closer. So there it is, tied off in the middle. I did it 3-hole pamphlet stitch like normal. Then I took both pieces and put them in my needle, and I took my awl and I poked a hole at a section that's pretty close to the top. I poked it through the pages, through the cover, and also I forgot to mention I made that string extra long. So this string is what's coming out from up here. And then I tie my tassel on up here. Oops, sorry. I tie my tassel on up here, and that's the string that these beads are on is what's tying this on, and it's also what's holding the signature in right here. So if you've seen that other video, that's just the change that I've made. I found it to be more secure the other way I was doing it. The knot would sometimes slide around through the signature and stuff, so the knot could come down a little bit or get pulled real high into the hole. And this seems to be way more secure. There's no moving around of that knot. And the tassel is very secure as well. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you like seeing my journals and want to see more of them, subscribe to me. And I'll be bringing you more soon. I'm going to be busy with fairy journals for the next month. And then after that, I'm going to delve into autumn journals. Yay! So I'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.